I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Hope of Cebuano Study Center, to the NCCA, and to, in other words, Incorporated for allowing us to present our action research project. And of course, a shout out to Jao for still accepting our paper despite the deadline and doing a great job in reminding us. Thank you so much, Jao. Okay, so I would like to bring forward, I'll start at my timer because I need to only speak for 10 minutes, then I'll give the mic to Taylor, my collaborator from Columbia University, who's very good at designing our digital archive project. Okay, so yeah, I just would like to bring forward 3 keywords in my presentation. One is the Restory. The other is the first one, sorry, someone's restoring, the keyword restoring. The second is restoring. And the offshoot of this restoring and restoring is the Sugbo Seed Archive. So I have multiple interests in coming here because I'd like to introduce the framework Restore-Restory, especially for the educators and scholars doing studies related to preserving and documenting our heritage, cultural and intangible heritage. And yeah, this is inspired by Living Story Landscapes that's founded by our good friend Sarah Keblatin, which, yeah, when you say restore, it's a condition that renews our relationship, our ecological, cultural, and social relationships that have been disrupted, creating a condition for healing and reconnecting with our communities and ecosystem. And the mechanism to do that, so how do we restore? What could be the vessel, or an agent, that could help us restore what have been lost, the things that we have to renew. So it's through the arts, through restoring, through storytelling. So restore our memories, our narrative of place and belonging in a changing climate. Of course, this is situated within the context of climate crisis. And when we talk about climate change, is a very complex, complicated one that a solitary research would not be enough. So the second interest is to advance a more interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research, that involves multiple disciplines. And when we say transdisciplinary, we go out of the academe and work, co-produce, co-create knowledge with the communities. So that's what we're doing. And another is to also advance to bring to our consciousness the research ecosystem that, of course, for a research to thrive, one element, researchers are just one part of the ecosystem, but of course, funding organizations, the academics, also very important, so that we're able to come up with platforms like this, like what the Cebuano Study Center and NCCE are doing. So we're aiming, we're advancing a thriving research ecosystem that not only advances one discipline like science, but also arts and culture. So when we say restore, so it's very much linked to memories. And since this is the focus of this framework is about food security or insecurity. When we say about food security, we talk about, is there enough food? So that's a food availability. Can we access food? Is it affordable? And do we still have enough food in the future, tomorrow? So, and for us to renew, no, to reconnect, no, to our past. So of course, food is the one tool, no, that could bring us back to the past. For example, yeah, I have my famous banana with Chris. So Chris is part of our Handuraw Panaw movement that aims to restore, no, regenerate watershed areas or protected areas within the CCPL. So I have a memory, of course. Maybe years from now, I will keep a memory with Chris, no, because of our sharing with banana. Okay, so what about you, no? So there was a time when food was shared, affordable, and harvested from the land. That's in the past. I hope that it's still possible. It's still ongoing. And yeah, what stories of food do you remember, Kathleen? And of course, there are foods that have disappeared. And our grandparents, no, our parents would always share stories about food. Of course, Cebu has a lot of heritage crops, no? And of course, we feature also kabog milay, no, in Katmon. That's our pre-colonial crops. So that's part of our documentation and storying. So why this study? Because, yeah, I don't know how long we can get hold of this. How food secure are we? Right now, we feel the inflation. Of course, this is complicated by double crisis, inflation, and also climate change. But it's not double crisis anymore, it's polycrisis. When you say polycrisis, multiple crises intersect because of climate change. So, what intersects, what other forces or factors that intersect with climate change, biodiversity loss, no, poverty, health, etc., etc. But yeah, yeah, the title that I presented a while ago is not fixed, no. That's the title at the moment, because as we move on, this is because this is a collaborative interdisciplinary research, so it keeps on changing. But what remains are the key concepts: the Restore, the Restory, and the Cebu Seed Archive. So from food security, the study has migrated into food sovereignty. You cannot have food security if you don't have food sovereignty. So the question, this has now shifted to agency. Who controls our food? So how do we reclaim agency over food? So it's drawing from Carl Polanyi's 1944 book on this embedded economy, that food is increasingly controlled by market systems, and we have become dependent on multinational corporations for food and seeds. Based on research, we have lost 70% of our seeds, no, from colonization and modernization, globalization. And we have a movement, okay, the Cebu Seed Savers, that's keeping, no, saving, no, banking our seeds, and we have to support them. So the focus of this study are these organizations, grassroots organizations that advance alternative food systems. So CAFE, Communities for Alternative Food Ecosystems, that promote organic farming, and slow food that preserves, no, heritage crops. We also have a chapter in Cebu that's, of Global Seed Savers. So, and native tree enthusiasts. So we are working with these organizations, and we are documenting their stories, no, the seeds, the trees that they have protected in our digital archive. Okay, so of course we know about. We have rich literature on climate impacts on food security, urban agriculture, and agricultural diversification, but we don't know much about these organizations that advocate for preserving our local cultural knowledge, no? That restore traditional food systems and imagine food secure futures. Okay, so of course, consistent with the framework, no, restoring and restoring. Okay, so we 5 minutes. We document stories of food among advocates and introduce another framework, no, the futures thinking, co-creating possible, probable, and preferable futures, no, making scenarios, because when we reimagine, when we restore, we have to have a foresight, no, create alternative futures, possible futures. And that is linked to restoring. Okay, so this is the temporary conceptual framework. Okay, so our collective memory, storytelling, leading to community dialogue. So futures thinking. So what possible, probable, preferable futures that we want. Okay, so restoring what food memories continue to live within Cebu community. So we draw from the concepts of Asman and Halbwaks on this, saying that memory is socially constructed. And how do we reconstruct our stories, no? How can collective memory be reconstructed through arts and culture? And this is through organized or ceremonial communication through poetry reading, like what we're doing right now. Participation in recollection of events or commemorative meetings, even with or without experience, who retold or reenacted past true storytelling. That is collective memory. Yeah, this is what we did, no, with the Slow Food members. Okay, because before we design a website, Taylor will explain that later. So we did series of workshops, no, on what kinds of stories do they want to publish, and what design. No? They are co-creator, co-producer of our digital archive. And restoring, so stories become sites for collective reflection and action. So I now give the floor to my collaborator.
Thank you so much. Maayong buntag. So the Cebu Seed Archive as a website project will feature a growing photographic inventory of heirloom seeds, native trees, and indigenous edible plants, along with best practice suggestions for cultivating them and, where possible, saving their seeds. Further, underscoring and celebrating the vital agrarian cultures of Cebu, the project will also include historical and contemporary stories of Sugbo food and farming cultures, commissioned poetry and essays by Cebuano writers, scientists, and farmers, and accessible overviews of research on food sovereignty and science. So this is I'll have to go a little bit quickly, but this is an overview of our work so far. So go back to that. So we've been working quite slowly on the design of the project. We're aware that the collectives we're collaborating with have a great deal at stake in their daily work, and that the seasonal rhythms and need of their broader communities should always come first. Another reason we're trying to be really thorough in building a methodology for the archive is due to our effort to protect particular modes of localized knowledge from bioprospecting. So bioprospecting in this context might be described as a systematic exploration of biological resources and associated local or indigenous knowledge in order to identify genetic traits, compounds, characteristics that can then be commercialized through breeding programs, intellectual property claims, or patents. So a couple of the collectives we're working with have already developed practices for mitigating the risks of bioprospecting, and as this is something they've dealt with for a really long time. And so we're fortunate to be developing an approach guided by their expertise, which at this point is focusing on omitting certain plant locations and also perhaps some species altogether from the website. So in moving through this, we've been lucky enough to work with local designer Fidel Ricafranca on the website's development. It was important to collaborate with a Cebuano-based art worker whose practice is attentive to both the making and the problematizing of archives. The design, as Dr. Crina mentioned, is being co-produced with our collaborating collectives, and we're launching in September. So please watch this space and you'll be able to have a look at it soon. Yeah, so this is a snapshot of what an inventory item will look like. We're just using dummy content on there, so, but yeah, it's, the typography is inspired by the Sinulog Festival, which we love because it's about collective movement, and I guess there's a real analogous kind of project there to agrarian knowledge production and circulation. We had time's up, should I keep going? We'll wrap up. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll be launching in September, and we're already discussing ways of extending the project and engaging in more collaborative authorship across Cebu. Thank you so much.